Hey guys, thanks for stopping by Gregsbeerreviews today. Yeah, the old clock says it's 5 o'clock. Beer 30. Let's go see what's in the fridge today. Hey guys, thanks for stopping by Gregsbeerreviews today. We got a funky beer going on here today. This is River North's Funk the Man. And that may be a play on words there. It's probably going to say the man, but I'm not going to say that. But they've done this, instead of saying that, they've done this with a sour / wild yeast on this, and they've done it with Brett. This is a 2015 version of this, volume number 1. Months in barrels is 16 months in a barrel. Wow. And it says here, Saison ale aged in Cabernet barrels with Brett, 8.7%, and they did 68 cases of this. And all that is written on the side of the label here. So we got the alcohol, we got the vintage, we got the release number. Doesn't have the IBUs, not critical for this style of beer. This was sent to me by Nate a while back, and I've had several subscribers saying, when are you going to do that beer? Because I keep seeing it in the fridge on the videos. We're doing it. Here it is. So, Nate, my brother, I do appreciate you sending it to me. Sorry it's taking so long, but this is a big beer at 8.7% wild yeast, and it's been in the barrels for 16 months, so I figured a couple more months is not going to hurt this beer. So there's nothing in this beer to keep you from not selling in this beer for a long time if you wanted to. So let's get on with it. I'm anxious to try this and see where it ends up. I don't do a lot of Saisons or farmhouse ales beers. They are very tasty. I've never brewed with any kind of Brett yeast because it gets into the fermentation equipment and you absolutely cannot get it out. And once it's introduced in there, it messes up everything. Unless you have dedicated equipment, buckets that you're brewing in, and siphons and carboys, you cannot get that Brett yeast out. It contaminates everything. And then if you do brew with this yeast, and you try to brew something else, it's going to have that sour, wild yeast influence to the beer. And I just didn't want to do that. I don't have the money to have dedicated equipment for a yeast, and even that, I'm concerned because this yeast is so potent, and not being able to get it sanitized and out of the equipment, that it would contaminate it even if I use different stuff. If you use even the brew pot that you're brewing in, if there's any yeast residual yeast that can contaminate that, it will. This is a very powerful yeast, guys, and I don't see how the breweries, unless they have dedicated bright tanks and fermentation tanks to brew this beer with that yeast and ferment it in there, I don't see how they get all that out of there. I have read and heard that it is impossible to get it out. And even in the lines, the beer lines, you can't get it out. You just can't run sanitation through it and get all that out of there. And it influences what goes through those lines or tanks or fermentation equipment after that. So, never have, and I probably won't. I've just heard too many bad things about brewing stuff with Brett in it. So, well, let's see what this one brings to the table. Commercial description says Saison ale, Saison aged in Cabernet barrels with Brett. Same thing it says on the label here. So there's nothing else we need to talk about. Like I said, I don't think I have the IBUs anywhere. It's not listed on Rate Beer or Beer Advocate or Untapped, either one. So we don't know the IBUs on the beer. It's not really super critical for this style of beer. And while I get the cap off, I will tell you, oh, nice big hiss on that. The cheeses are peppery, Monterey, pepper jack. Your stronger, more pungent cheeses, Gorgonzola, Limburger. And it says here, general salad. Don't drink a lot of beer with salad, guys. Just me. Glassware, the flute, tulip, oversized wine glass. I got my favorite snifter glass. And it says here can be sold for a long period of time, and I would not disagree with that. I can't think of a single reason why you can sell this beer for a long time. Didn't pour much of a head on that pour. Just barely covering the top of the beer. It's very clear. It looks like a filtered beer. Nice orange, amber, tangerine color. A little lighter on the thin part of the glass down here. Can see light right through it. Good looking beer. Let's get a nose on it and see what we got. Nate, thank you again, my brother. I do appreciate it, sir. Ooh, big Brett sour wild yeast notes on this. Not getting a lot of the barrel aging, even though it was in there 16 months. And the Cabernet, that probably, I might get it in a taste. Not getting on the nose. Getting that big Brett wild sour yeast notes on the nose. Big time. Big time yeast. Sour, Saison-ish farmhouse notes. Not my typical style. I do enjoy these occasionally, so let's see what it brings to the table. Cheers, everybody. Cheers, Nate. Wow. Wow. Big time Brett sour wild yeast notes. Very sour. Very tart. Hint of some white grapes to me. Sour grapes. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. That makes my eyes go around and around and around. Definitely different from your typical IPAs, double IPAs, stouts, whatever, pale ales. Anything was brewed with this Brett yeast, wild sour ales, are completely different than any other style. Because I've been trying to wrap my arms around this style of beers for a couple of years now, and every time I get one of these, it makes my mouth pucker up. Do one of those numbers. Especially the first couple of sips. Now after I sip on it for a little bit, I get more acclimated to it, and by the end of the beer, I'm enjoying it. But the first sip or two or three, wow. That is definitely different from your typical beer. If you're drinking Budweiser, Miller, Coors, and you had a sip of this, it would blow your eyeballs out. It absolutely would. This is an acquired taste beer for the Saison wild ale yeast, especially done with the Brettanomyces yeast. Nice, but definitely different. So let me sip on this right out of the fridge, and I ought to take a picture. I'll hand this to the other half and let her take a sip of it, and take a picture of her face once she does, because it's going to be like one of them numbers. That's what it does to me too. But very unique style, guys. It's definitely an acquired taste, and a nice change up. I wouldn't want to drink this every day. I couldn't handle it every day. Maybe I should handle it every day. That way I could wrap my arms and my taste buds and palate around this style of beer, but it is so different. Well, let's sip on it for a while. I'll be right back. Alright guys, I'm back. Been sipping on for a while now. I was pleasantly surprised. Excuse me. When I handed it to her, she actually loved it. she thought it was very, very tasty. I was expecting that sour face, and I didn't get it. So maybe her palate is getting more acclimated to these sour beers than mine. And that happens. I mean, she didn't find it too tart. She really liked it. She enjoyed it. And I was surprised. I was surprised. It has a heavy Cabernet barrel influence to the beer. I'm getting a lot of the grapes from the barrels, along with the wild sour funkiness. That's why they're calling this Funk the Man. It has a heavy funkiness to it, like the Saison farmhouse beers that are done with Brett. And being aged 16 months in a Cabernet barrels gives us that venomous, grapish quality to the beer. So, very enjoyable. It is. It's a nice change for me. I couldn't drink this every day, but a very nice change. And I like to do different beers, guys. And being a beer reviewer, I like to do the IPAs and the Pales and the Hefeweizens and the Oktoberfest and all the different styles of beers that go along with drinking ales. If you're drinking a lager, it's a lager. You can hop it up, make it a hoppy lager, but there's not a whole lot of changes you can do to a lager, in my opinion. Now, I may be wrong on that. There's a lot of breweries that do lagers and have been doing lagers for 100 or so more years. Especially guys over in Germany and some of those places that's been doing lagers for forever. For freaking ever. So, very nice. Definitely different. Final chug. Very nice. Heavy Cabernet influence on this beer. Getting heavy grapes. And to me, it's more like a white grape than a dark Concord grape or anything like that. But definitely getting it. Definitely getting it. Well-made beer. Alcohol is super well hidden for an 8.7%, especially being in wine barrels that long. So, very delicious. Very, very delicious, guys. And it's got the vintage right here. It's a 2015, and we're in 2017. It's 2 years old. Cellared very, very well. Very nice beer. And I don't see why you couldn't sell this beer for a long time. 5, 10, or 15 years, and not having anything go bad or fade over time. So, very nice beer. Funk the Man. This is from River North Brewery. They're out of Denver, Colorado. Very tasty. And I have some more River North beers that Nate has sent me because they are not available here, and seem to be doing a very damn good job. So, and they're doing some different versions of this, that, and the other. And I think they've actually done a couple different versions of this. So, Nate, thanks again, my brother. I do appreciate it, sir. For me, for the style of beer, it's everything that the label says it is. 9 out of 10 for me, guys. And you say, oh my God, that's a 10 beer, I would not argue with that at all. It is pretty impressive beer, especially if you're into the sour wild ale style Brettanomyces yeast beers that has been aged in Cabernet barrels for 16 whole months. And not sure what this beer costs, but I'm sure it's not a cheap beer to buy, especially when it's set in a Cabernet barrel for 16 whole months. Long time, almost a year and a half there, setting in the barrel. So, very nice, very well done beer. Like I said, 9 out of 10 for me, guys. Numeric rating on this would probably be a 97. Over to Beer Advocate. Beer Advocate has no score, and usually tells me for a beer that's been out for 2 years and they don't have 10 people to post comments or reviews on this beer. It must be a fairly small brewery. So, over to Rate Beer. Rate Beer is the same way. No score. Not 10 people have commented on this beer in 2 years. Incredible. That just reinforces my theory that this is a fairly small brewery. So, final check-in, we'll run over to Untapped. Untapped has it at 3.93, which is in their lower A category. So, Untapped and me both think it's an A beer, guys. It is very, very tasty. And I gave it a little bit better grade than Untapped is because of what they went through on this beer. Very, very tasty beer. Set in a Cabernet barrel for 16 whole months. Got a lot of information on there telling us when it was done and what batch it was, and everything we need other than the IBUs, which is not critical on this beer. So, very delicious. I enjoyed this one. So, Nate, once again, my brother, thanks again. I do appreciate these beers you're sending to me, especially these River North beers that I cannot get here. And if let me know, post in the comments whether you bought this at a beer store or if you had to go to the brewery to get it or whatever the case may be. And if you want to, post what this particular beer costs. Buying it singles, I don't know if you bought 1 or 4 or 6 or 12 or whatever, the price of this beer. So, very tasty. Alright guys, if you've had this one from River North Brewery, this is Funk the Man #1. Pretty funky. Funky like a cheesy monkey. Alright guys, if you had, let me know what you think. Come on back tomorrow. Let's dig something out of the fridge. See you then.